Hey guys, welcome back to the Prosta English podcast. As many of my listeners say, this podcast helps them boost their listening skills, expand their vocabulary with juicy words and phrases, and in general, get into the habit of listening to the content in English. It's very convenient because you can turn on an episode in your earphones while doing your usual things, like cleaning the house, cooking, commuting to work, or going for a walk with your dog. This way, you will kill two birds with one stone. You improve your English skills and take care of other things at the same time. Simple, convenient, and effective. So please follow the podcast if you haven't done it yet, so you can listen to the previous episodes and not miss the new ones. But for now, let's get started. This February, I spent 11 days in Tenerife. It was our second time on this island. Last year, my husband and I also traveled to Tenerife in winter. I've already recorded a full episode about that trip where I explain why we picked Tenerife for our vacation and the advantages of traveling there in winter. If you're interested, you can go back and listen to the episode 44 called 10 Reasons to Visit Tenerife. But this time during our trip, I was inspired to explore a new topic and compare different types of accommodation while traveling, such as hotels, apartments, RVs, and more. I find it really interesting to think about the pros and cons of each option. But one type of accommodation that we will discuss today is definitely not for me. I wouldn't want to stay there while traveling, and I will share which one it is at the end of the episode and explain why. But first, let's start with apartments for rent. When I was a child, my parents and I almost always stayed in hotels while traveling. It was the simplest and the safest option. Yeah, when we traveled to Crimea in summer, we would rent a house or an apartment from locals. We would just look for signs like apartment for rent, call the number, visit the place, ask the price, and stay if we liked it. But I would say that this kind of accommodation wasn't official, which is why it wasn't very popular. And then around 2010, Airbnb was introduced. It was the first service that allowed people to rent apartments officially from locals. I remember a lot of people started using it. It was cheaper than hotels, new and unusual. You could choose any apartment you liked and really feel like a local. Now, I don't know the exact statistics, but from my social circle, I see that both apartments and hotels seem equally popular. It just depends on the destination, the price, and the purpose of the trip. This time, when we traveled to Tenerife, we spent 6 days in an apartment and 5 days in a hotel. When we started looking for accommodation as experienced travelers to this island, we knew we wanted to stay in two different places, two different parts of the island, so we could explore it from different sides. For us, it didn't matter whether it was a hotel or an apartment. We just opened booking and started searching. Our main criteria were price and location. When we travel, we usually only sleep at our accommodation, so it doesn't really make sense to pay a fortune, like to pay a lot for a hotel. At the same time, of course, we want the place to be clean, modern, and pleasant. So this time, somehow by chance, we picked an apartment as our first accommodation, and there are definitely some pros of it. The first advantage of living in an apartment while traveling is self check in. If you are an introvert and don't want to talk to anyone, for example, at the reception, self check in is a great option. You just receive a message from the host with instructions on how to open the key locker, take your key, and that's it. You are checked in. Point number two is kitchen. I'm not a huge fan of cooking, and of course, I prefer to avoid it while traveling. But in my opinion, it's very convenient to have the possibility to cook at least breakfast at home. I personally like a simple breakfast like eggs, bread with ham, yogurt, and for me, it's also important to eat a lot of vegetables in the morning. When I do that, I feel full and feel that my body is functioning properly. And when I eat in cafes all the time, after a few days, I start to feel heavy. Even if the food is tasty, it's usually more oily or salty than what I would cook at home. I also do not always get enough vegetables. That's why having a kitchen makes a big difference for me. During this trip, once we also cooked a proper dinner at home. I don't know how it happened, but we went into a local market, saw a lot of fresh and cheap fish and calamari, and decided that today we wanted to feel local and eat at home. We bought some vegetables, Canarian potatoes, wine, cheese, and fruit, and we had a fabulous experience preparing everything. And of course, in the end, it was much cheaper. And the third advantage of renting a flat is having a lot of extra things. Let me explain. In this flat, we found many small items left by the owner or most probably by previous travelers. They didn't want to take them back home, so they left them in the apartment. There were home slippers, board games, beach games, sunscreen, beach towels, beach umbrellas, nail polish remover, a wine opener, and many, many other small but useful things. We traveled with a carry on bag only and couldn't bring a lot of stuff. So it was very convenient that we didn't have to buy certain things just for one time use, and we could simply use what was already in the apartment. The second part of our trip we spent at a hotel. To be honest, we chose this hotel on purpose. When we had already booked the first apartment, we immediately decided that the next accommodation should be a hotel because we knew it would be a completely different kind of experience and it would be perfect for the end of the trip. The apartment was in the southern part of the island, while the hotel was in the northern part. We chose a hotel with breakfast because we knew it would be inconvenient to buy food in a shop and store it in a small fridge. We didn't overthink it. The reviews were good, the price was reasonable, so we just booked it. But honestly, when we arrived, the hotel exceeded our expectations. First of all, we were given a room with an ocean view. I think it was the most beautiful view I've ever had from a balcony. It was so pleasant to wake up, open the curtains, and see the ocean. And again, about the reviews, many people wrote that it was very loud and they couldn't sleep because of the wind and the sound of the waves. Yeah, I agree. It wasn't completely quiet, but it didn't bother me much. As soon as my head touched the pillow, I was asleep and didn't wake up until morning. The second surprise that was waiting for us at this hotel was the outdoor pool. To be honest, we didn't even know the hotel had one. Even though the water was quite cold and we didn't swim, there were many sunbeds next to the pool, and we spent 2 days there just chilling and sunbathing. It wasn't a part of our plan, but after a week of nonstop walking, driving, and exploring the island, these relaxed days helped us completely recharge our batteries at the end of the trip and have a proper rest. So, the advantages of a hotel that I want to highlight are the following. First, it feels special. When you stay in a hotel and not in an apartment, it really feels like vacation time. Usually, the beds are very comfortable and the mattresses are big and high, which makes you feel like a princess. Second, hotels often have great facilities like swimming pools, saunas, gyms, rooftop bars, and so on. The third one, and it's one of my favorites, is the cleaning service. It's amazing when you leave the room, come back a few hours later, and everything is clean and fresh. You have fresh towels, a neatly made bed, and a clean floor. It's especially important in warm countries where you come back from the beach and every day bring a lot of sand with you. If the place isn't cleaned regularly, like in a rented apartment, after a few days, the floor starts to feel dirty and it's not very pleasant to walk barefoot. One more advantage is that after checkout, you can still stay at the hotel, which is usually not possible in an apartment. Our return flight was at 7 p.m. and checkout was at 12. We packed all our things in the morning, put them in the car, and spent the whole day by the pool. Even though it was our departure day, it still felt like a proper vacation day, just without the sunset that we had been trying to catch every evening. The hotel where we were staying also offered an all inclusive option where all meals and drinks are included for the day. We didn't need that during our stay. Breakfast was enough for us because we wanted to explore different local restaurants. But on the day of our departure, we could pay extra 23 euros per person, go to the buffet, and enjoy unlimited food and drinks. Just 23 euros. It's really cheap for the amount and variety of food you get. And for us, it was very convenient because we didn't have to waste time on the last day looking for a restaurant. The last kind of accommodation that I wanted to mention in this episode is campers, camper vans, or RVs as they are called in the United States. This is basically a vehicle designed for living and traveling at the same time. Inside, you usually have a bed, a small kitchen, and sometimes even a bathroom and a shower. So it's like a tiny home on wheels. There are a lot of campers in Tenerife. It's said that the biggest advantage of a camper is that you can park in a beautiful place and wake up with a view. But from what I've seen, it's not always true. Most of the time in Tenerife, people just park wherever they find a free space, sometimes in really random areas. I know many people who dream of traveling in a camper, but I can only imagine doing it in the United States. It's like a childhood dream to cross the country in a van And as far as I know, it's also much more affordable than staying in hotels there. In other cases, no way. It's just not my cup of tea. Maybe if you live in a spacious home with huge rooms and a lot of space, and you want a more exotic experience while traveling, it's okay. But European apartments are so tiny. We live in a three-bedroom apartment that is only 60 square meters, and the bedrooms are just 9 square meters each. And I don't see the point of traveling and living in an even smaller space. I think I would get claustrophobic. Second, when you travel in a camper, even basic needs can become a challenge. You need to think about showers and toilets. I know some campers have them inside, but I truly believe not all of them do. Third, I imagine a camper needs to be cleaned regularly, and at the very least, everything should be put back in its place. Otherwise, you might not even have room to sleep. But I'm a messy person. I try to keep my home tidy, but it's always a challenge for me. And when I travel, I like having my things scattered around the room, and it makes me happy. I know I can do it because I'm resting and don't have to worry about chores. To be honest, I could go on about other challenges. For example, in a camper, it might get too cold or too hot, and you have to be careful about closing it because there might be a risk of theft and so on. But again, it's just my imagination. I've never traveled in a camper, and maybe one day I will try it. But for now, when I travel, I prefer hotels or apartments. Thank you so much, guys, for staying with me today. When you have a moment, please send me a short message to let me know you've listened to this episode of the podcast. You can reach me on Instagram or Telegram. I always get so excited, so thrilled when I see your messages because then I know I'm not just talking to myself. And of course, don't forget to share the podcast with your friends who are also learning English. Hopefully, together, we can help them boost their language skills. I'm sending you the warmest hugs, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye bye.